Radhe Radhe. SkyGuardian, you recommend that we read from another section of the Vachanamrut. Let us do so. As many of you know, this is a collection of discourses by Swaminarayan, whom is the incarnation of divinity that Pramukh Swami Maharaj, for example, worshipped, as we have been reading. Today we are reading Gadhadha 1:34, Setting the World in Motion. I look forward to this section. Oftentimes it includes some rather philosophical and complex Sanskrit words that I may not always be able to translate, but I hope that there are nuggets of wisdom that I may be able to convey as we read this. On the morning of Posh Vadhi the 11th, Samvat 1876, or in our calendar, the 11th of January 1820, Swaminarayan, here addressed as Shriji Maharaj, was sitting facing south on a large decorated cot on the veranda outside the west-facing rooms of Dada Kachor's Darbar in Gadhadha. He was wearing a white case and had covered himself with a thick white cotton cloth. He had also tied a white pag around his head and was wearing garlands of flowers as well. Tassels of flowers and silken threads were dangling from his pag, and bunches of flowers had also been placed upon both of his ears. At that time, some munis were singing devotional songs to the accompaniment of musical instruments, while other munis, as well as satsangis, participants of this spiritual gathering from various places, had gathered before him in an assembly. Then Shriji Maharaj said, "Please stop the devotional songs and begin a question-answer dialogue." Thereupon, Brahmananda Swami asked, "God is the haven of all bliss, and he transcends everything. Yet, the jiva's vritti, the individual's focus, does not become attached to him. Instead, its vritti become attached to worldly objects that are worthless and perishable. What is the reason for this?" It's a good question. If that supreme source is the goal, why are we not concentrated on attaining that? Why are we so focused with attaining perishable things? Muktananda Swami attempted to give an answer, but he was unable to do so satisfactorily. So, Shriji Maharaj said, "Please listen as I answer that question. Since the day God created this world, He has set in motion in such a manner that He will not have to toil again. In fact, He has devised it in such a way that procreation occurs automatically. For example, men naturally develop affection for women, women naturally develop affection for men, and both naturally develop affection for their offspring. That is God's Maya, material or even illusory existence, in the form of affection. The vritti, concentration or aspiration of one who is not swept away by the flow of that Maya, remains focused on the form of God. So, a devotee of God develops vairagya, dispassion, by maintaining an aversion for worldly objects. Furthermore, knowing God to be absolutely blissful, they keep their vritti focused on God. If, however, one does not cultivate vairagya towards worldly objects and becomes distant from the form of God, then even great muktas, liberated beings such as Shiva, the destroyer, Brahma, the creator, Narada, the yogi, the guru of the devas, Devarishi Narada, would be swept away by those worldly objects. For this reason, if one forsakes God and keeps the company of worldly objects, then one's vritti will most certainly become attached to those worldly objects. Therefore, devotees of God should not keep affection for anything other than God. Thereafter, Shriji Maharaj said, "Now it is Muktananda Swami's turn to ask a question, so please ask." Muktananda Swami then asked, "It is extremely difficult for a person to attain God. Moreover, there is no greater benefit and no greater bliss than attaining God. Why then do people forsake such immense bliss and strive agonizingly for worthless objects?" That is the question. Quite the question. Shriji Maharaj said, "Here, I shall answer that. When one ignores the injunctions of God and begins to stray away from them, they suffer. On the other hand, if one acts according to those injunctions, one will experience the true bliss of God. So, in fact, one suffers only to the extent that one transgresses the injunctions of that source, God. Therefore, renunciants should live according to the injunctions that have been prescribed for renunciants, and householders should live accordingly to the injunctions that have been prescribed for householders. One suffers to the extent that one lapses in observing these injunctions. Only when a renunciant observes eightfold renunciation of people whom they are attracted to is their vow of Brahmacharya, which is difficult to translate, not literally. Literally it means the way or the path of God. Brahma, God, Charya, path. But it's used in the context of celibacy. But celibacy isn't quite a word that fits also, because here in the West, in English, that comes with an idea that it's some kind of rule that you must follow, or else. Or it's simply a kind of abstinence where you refrain. But Brahmacharya is more about devoting one's energies towards the path of God. It is something that you can follow for your own spiritual acceleration. I'll repeat that last sentence. Only when a renunciant observes eightfold renunciation of people whom they are attracted to is their vow of Brahmacharya considered complete. They suffer to the extent that they deviate from this. Brahmacharya has also been prescribed for householders. For them, Brahmacharya constitutes shunning all those whom they are attracted to, except, of course, to their partner, abstinence from sexual relations with their partner on days of observance, and engaging in such relations only during appropriate times. Whosoever deviates from these and the other niyamas, which are things one should not do, that have been prescribed for renunciants and householders, suffers accordingly. Therefore, the happiness and misery experienced by a non-believer is determined by their own karmas, by their own actions. As for a devotee of God, whatever misery they suffer is due to negligence in observing God's injunctions for the sake of worthless objects, and whatever happiness they do experience is a result of following the injunctions of that source, God. All right. That is the end of Gadhada 134, setting the world in motion. There are some lovely points about the fact that we often have attachment to worldly objects because the world has been set in motion so that procreation happens automatically, and various desires are associated with this. However, for a spiritual aspirant, one develops a kind of vairagya, dispassion towards these, and the practice of Brahmacharya can be an exceptionally powerful toolkit on your way to association of the divine. So again, thank you all for listening.